and I have clicked the button. I'm just waiting for this to present. The little lines moving across the screen, and it says it's done, and we're broadcasting to YouTube. And okay, so I'm just waiting for my compatriot to re-enter.
Here. I'll go on. Are we on Univaz yet?
We should be.
All right, let me go check.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
While you do that, I will check the blackboard to see if the teacher left us any new notes.
Right. Mrs. Crabtree, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mrs. Crabtree.
Or at least that's how she's dressed up tonight.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to go to MatMin. Oops. Not National Guard. Matinee. There we go. Well, I did it wrong again. What the hell?
2 E's.
Actually, in my browser, all I have to type in is Matt.
Oh.
It fills in everything. All right. So I want to go over here and I want to do this and I want to get on the Univaz tower.
You're like King Kong, you're getting on the tower.
Okay, we are on the stream.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's no question about it.
Well, it's certainly a beautiful spring evening because people have other places to be.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I didn't say that, did I? Oops. Well, I think everyone who's going to be here is here, so we'll just do like Steve Martin and put a bunch of cardboard cutouts out.
Not a problem.
All right, so I'm going to get this going. Good evening and welcome to the beautiful historic Marionette Theater. Tonight we're going to be discussing a late 90s or mid to late 90s drama musical. And it stars the likes of fabulous British actress Brenda Blythe, up-and-coming Jane Horrocks, and seasoned actor Mr. Michael Caine. Might be another surprise in there, but catch your seats. We're about to begin. Well, now, Toppy, I was just saying a moment ago, it's a beautiful spring evening, and, there's been a few days this week that I've actually managed to have the windows open at the old chateau.
Me too. Me too, all night long. By the way, I've also heard the peepers.
Yeah.
It's been warm enough to bring the peepers out. And I could hear them around about 5, 6 in the evening. I heard the peepers.
Oh, out here in Not Quite Apple Country, it's spring when you see the neighborhood cats wandering.
What? Really? Okay.
I mean, I have a friend, I like to call him, who visits from the apartments nearby. I have on good authority that he lives with a grandmother and her granddaughter, but they let him out, which people, please, if you're going to let your animals out, make sure they have a microchip or a collar or something. But best of all, just don't. The animals have a happier and longer life indoors, please. Anyways, so a beautiful white kitty with little spots. I call them cow spots because when they're dark, they remind me of a moo.
Sure.
But anyways, I've been visited a few times by some of the neighborhood friends, and I was very happy to see the closest neighbor's orange kitty because, well, they're not necessarily good people and they have as many animals as children. I was worried for a moment there that they might have quote unquote given them away, but
yeah. Do you and Billy ever sit out like in your backyard, in the loaming, in the gloaming, twilight, and then see like possums and night critters come out?
Well, no, we do have fireflies now and then, and we have been we've had long-term plans of putting out a patio
Yeah.
so that we
Yeah.
can have somewhere to sit and watch that. But this past winter, we actually had the fortune of hosting a mama deer. She
What?
a big girl was wandering our property, and one winter night I looked out the bathroom window, and I had my glasses off, of course, and there was this shadowy figure wandering the middle of my backyard. Now, we're still doing stuff to our property. There's not a lot of features here, but smack in the middle of our backyard is our new septic tank, and Mama Deer was putting her pregnant belly on the ground over the septic tank because it's warmer there.
Oh my God. What time of year was this?
Oh, this was in the winter. I want to say November-ish, perhaps.
No kidding.
Oh, but it was just so adorable because, of course, one of the things that we did the other year to lower the maintenance of our properties, we put in clover to replace the grass.
Yeah.
And Mama Deer was munching in the
Oh, they love
snow.
that. I bet they love that.
I could set up a camera and perhaps charge admission, but yes. So, Toppy, we're
Oh.
in April, and there's a couple of things about April that are very significant in regards to tonight.
Oh. Tell us about it.
Well, one of the things about April, besides the beginning of spring and Easter shortly, and Passover for our folks that are Jewish, and I believe Ramadan is also this time of year as well. April is National Jazz Appreciation Month, and
Okay.
as I'm one to do, I listen to quite a bit of my local jazz station. I also I sponsor. Well, I donate to it. That's it's a worthy cause.
That's nice, DJ.
And the other thing that is important about April is that it's National Autism Awareness Month. Now, as we get into the story, that may have some bearing on tonight's film.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. And I think we're thinking along the same lines, but we'll talk about it later.
Well, I think I heard the tones of that ice cream truck, so I know our senior showgirl is somewhere about the play.
Hey, DJ.
What?
Tappy. Yeah. What? I just want to tell you, I could have played a role in this movie. I could have had it. Listen, I could have been the little voice, LV. Listen, do you know how many times I stripped to those standards? I stripped a dozen times to Frank Sinatra. I stripped a dozen times. Listen, I could have done them. I know them by heart. I could have done that role. So it's another movie I lost out on. I'm sorry, Gertie. I'm sorry.
That's a sad story, Gertie. Everything happens.
Yeah, it is.
But I'm so glad that you stopped wearing those little curl pajamas during your warm-ups, because that was
yeah, I guess so. Anyways, I'll be downstairs when you want me to do the intro. Oh, okay. Thank you, Gertie.
Thank you much, ma'am. All right. Well, I think she's gotten down there. Shall we get this going?
Yeah, you might as well. LV is a soft-spoken girl who lost her father at a young age. She spends her days listening to records of his favorite music and has even taught herself to mimic them. One night, when her amorous mother brings a gentleman caller home, they blow a fuse and the sparks fly. When the suitor talent agent hears the dulcet tones coming from upstairs, will LV knock the locals' socks off? Will she make her mama rich? Will she talk to strangers? Grab a cardigan and bring your favorite records. It's time for Little Voice with Brenda Blythen and Jane Horrocks.
A little time with me.
Hit it, boys.
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen? A pinch of golden oldies? And a smidgen of screaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your host, DJ and Toppy.
So, as our senior showgirl was mentioning there, this is a 90s drama and it's got some music in it. It's about a soft
Yeah.
spoken girl.
DJ, one of the things I want to get right out the bat is that in my research, I ran across a current, well, or at least very recent TV series called Little Voices or Little Voice. Does that TV series have anything to do with this movie? Do you know anything about that?
No, actually, they do just share a title. It is about people being discovered, but it isn't directly related.
Okay, no relationship. I didn't know. I thought maybe, somehow they had started a project that continued this movie somehow.
That would be a nice thing, but no, sadly, it's just sort of a simple name that was eventually going to get reused.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, it's Jazz Appreciation Month, and I certainly appreciated the music that was featured in tonight's film.
Yeah, you know what I just learned tonight is that the stage version has a lot more music.
Oh,
a lot more songs, a lot more standards. And it was one of those things that when they were making this movie, it was hard to get the rights. And so they cut way down on the songs they featured. So the stage version has many, it's like a lot more music, singing.
Okay, I'm just stalling for a moment because I want to fill in something I forgot to put there. But yeah, since this and it should be noted that Little Voice was actually a film that was produced overseas in the UK. Of course, it did get released in the States. However, it was a much more limited release. It was
I guess so, because I sure don't remember it. I do not remember this movie.
It allegedly came out in December of 98. However, when I saw it, it was some months later. It might have been at one of those second run theaters. So that would have explained how the ticket was affordable, because my ex was a little bit cheap.
All right. Well, you know what? This movie came out in 1998. Why don't you set the stage and tell us a little bit about world history back then in 1998.
Okay, and this is a little bit long, so I'm going to ask you to come in during the section on the Academy Awards, sir.
Okay.
All right. World history in 1998. Way back then, smoking is banned in all California bars and restaurants. Figure there was an ashtray in the movie. Researchers in Dallas, Texas present findings about an enzyme.
DJ, there was a lot of smoking in that movie.
Yes, and some of it was in public places.
Yes, it was. Anyways, continue.
So researchers in Dallas, Texas present findings about an enzyme that slows aging and cell death.
Why haven't they given me that formula?
Well, it's the potion. You got to ask Meryl Streep.
Oh, okay.
Ford Motor Company announced the buyout of Volvo cars. So if you didn't know, they owned them, and they paid $6.45 billion in 1998 money.
All right.
The presidential line item veto was declared unconstitutional, which meant a president could say that they like some of a law, but not all of it.
Okay.
So it was made unconstitutional. In the realm of gay rights, Unkale versus Sundowner Offshore Services, the Supreme Court of the U.S. ruled the federal law banning on-the-job sexual harassment also apply when both parties are the same sex. So you can be harassed by somebody your same gender.
All right. Very revolutionary. All right.
NASA.
It was good of them to think of that.
Equal opportunity, right?
Yeah.
NASA announced the choice of United States Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Eileen Collins. Okay, this is important that I say this right, because Miss Eileen Collins was technically from my place I was birthed. So Eileen Collins, U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. She was announced as commander of future Space Shuttle Columbia mission to launch an X-ray telescope, which this made her the first woman to command a space shuttle mission in
Okay,
1998.
DJ, I don't want to shatter your, your vision of this woman, but just have to ask, is this woman the same woman that wore a diaper and drove to some state and tried to kill some other astronaut? Do you remember this? Am I making this up?
That was much more recently, and Eileen Collins is retired.
Okay, that wasn't what I just said. Had nothing to do with Eileen Collins.
No, but I was supposed to take part of a parade that was being held in her honor after the events mentioned in the history. And an ex of hers phoned in a death threat. So,
oh, for heaven's sakes!
Yeah. I was denied my opportunity to meet Eileen Collins, although I did get her autograph much later. So, the 70th Academy Awards, hosted by Billy Crystal, are held at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. Toppy, take it away from James Cameron. Do you see where we are at James Cameron?
Yeah. Just edit that part out because I'm choking.
Okay.
Sorry.
Eileen Collins got him choked up, folks.
Yeah.
He has a soft spot for women in power, or of power.
So I think the main thing you're pointing out is that James Cameron's Titanic was coming across, and it had freaking, I don't know how many nominations, and I think it won 11 awards.
Mm-hmm.
And that tied with 1959's Ben-Hur. So that's pretty amazing. So is that what you wanted me to point out?
I wanted you to read the rest.
Oh, okay. So there was a record tying 14 nominations for that. By the way, it tied with 1950's All About Eve, including Best Director and Best Picture. This telecast of the Academy Awards, and I think I was there, DJ. I think I saw this because I remember what's his face? Billy Crystal hosting it. And it was like a kind of a pretty famous telecast. And it was the most watched Oscars broadcast in history, garnering over 57.2 million viewers. So that was a lot. And so that was just kind of a big deal, at the time, kind of a big deal. Shall I go on about General Motors?
Sure.
Okay. DJ, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Okay. By the way, at that time,
in
1998, thank you, DJ, a strike begins at the General Motors Corporation parts factory in Flint, Michigan.
Oh, home of the nasty water.
Yeah, somewhere along here, we're going to tie everything in, folks. By the way, it's quickly spread into 5 other assembly plants, just like COVID, folks. And it lasted 7 weeks. I shouldn't find this funny, but somehow I do. American Airlines becomes the first airline to offer electronic ticketing in all 44 countries it serves. Well, that's advanced.
Mm-hmm.
What do you suppose in that day electronic ticketing meant?
It might have been that you were able to buy things online. I remember one of the first times that I flew, which actually was in 98.
Yeah.
I went to a travel agent still That's not as much as today.
DJ, I haven't heard the word travel agent in eons. Isn't that precious? You went to see a travel agent. Oh, that's nice. All right, where was I?
44 countries.
Oh, 44 countries. Okay. Hey, listen, the Space Shuttle Discovery. Okay, that's important. It blasts off with 77-year-old John Glenn. Remember him? He was on board, making him the oldest person to go into space.
Before the chat.
Yeah. Oh, God, yes, before the chat, completely. That's so funny. America Online announces it will. Oh my God, DJ, I remember this. I remember this happening. America Online announces it will acquire Netscape Communications in a stock-for-stock transaction worth $4.2 billion. Oh my God, that's amazing. Exxon announces a 73.7 billion deal to buy Mobil. Did they do that? Thus creating Exxon. Oh yeah, Exxon Mobil, the second largest company on the planet by revenue. Oh my God. Oh,
so that was a lot that happened in 1998. And as we often do, we talk about the turnstile of life, if you will.
well,
so in 98, some people left us and some people entered the world.
I don't know if you folks notice, but the older the movies we do, we feature births. And the more recent movies we do, we feature deaths. Anyways, well, let's start out. Okay, let me go back to what year this is. What year? 1998. All right, folks. Celebrity deaths. Well, it's Sonny Bono. Okay, he was 63 years old. Lloyd Bridges. Oh, I liked him. He was an actor. He died at 85. Linda McCartney. The legless. No, that's terrible. Why did I say that? The photographer wife of Paul McCartney died at 57. Roy Rogers. Okay, here's a man out of time. Roy Rogers, the actor and musician who had a career a million years before, finally dies at 87. Why am I should not be amused by this.
I think that the dentist's office next door sprung a leak in your room.
Maybe. Sherry Lewis. Now, you know what? If this Sherry Lewis is the Sherry Lewis I know, a ventriloquist?
Yes.
Yes, I love her. And her little lamb chops hand puppet. Well, she died that year at 65. Roddy McDowall. Now, everyone says that I know that Roddy McDowall was just one of the nicest people in Hollywood ever. And I believe it. And he died at 70 that year. Flip Wilson. Oh my God. He died that year at 65. Paris Jackson, daughter of...
We're in the birth section.
Okay, now we're in births. Okay, born in this year was Paris Jackson, daughter of Michael. Do you remember that? Elle Fanning, sister of actress Dakota. Oh, Dakota Fanning, also an actress. 01 I Am Sam with Sean Penn, and 2014 Disney's Maleficent with Angelina Jolie. I was born. Jaden Smith. Oh no, are we going to hook up with Will Smith? I guess we are. The slap heard around the world. Jaden Smith, actor, musician, dancer, was born this year. He's the son of Will Smith. Slap. Well, sorry.
Yeah, and the actor part, I don't know how many credits that is. I'm only vaguely aware of a movie that he and his dad did together where they're supposedly in the future and in space, and supposedly it bombed at the box office.
I didn't see it, but yeah, I remember it bombed.
So speaking of the box office, Now, we like to talk about whereabouts on the ladder of entertainment tonight's program we have landed. And of course, Little Voice was a UK film, so it had a limited release. It was probably sort of an art house, uh, thing.
I have to imagine, first of all, this is the goddamn year that the Titanic came out.
Mm.
James Cameron's Titanic. Who could fight that?
Oh, well, the splash of the waves just buried everything else that was at
Yes, indeed.
So, of course, at the top of the box office in 98 was the aforementioned Titanic, which, if you didn't know, the boat sank and starred Kate Winslet and up and coming teen heartthrob Leo DiCaprio. That movie brought in $488 million.
Jesus.
Today's money, that's about enough to buy a house in San Francisco.
Honest to God, DJ, that's true.
It might even be a condo nowadays.
Yeah. By the way, a lot of people poo-poo Titanic now, but I gotta say, I still feel like this was a thrilling movie and memorable. I still like Titanic.
It was very charming. I will say that I feel the most revering scenes are the ones that are Kathy Bates, because she's a figure in history. I mean, having lived in Denver, I have to tell you that Molly Brown, aka Margaret, was a fixture of Colorado history. She was the first woman to run for Senate in that state. Anyways,
did she get the spot?
I think she did.
Okay.
So yeah, I remember Leo DiCaprio, he was a little bit of a heartthrob, but he wasn't my thing. I think I remember people calling him a fetus at the time.
A fetus. Oh my God.
One of those kind of barely legal types. But anyways, number 2 at the box office was this big action thing with Bruce Willis and Steven Tyler's little girl, all grown up, Liv Tyler. Called Armageddon, and we were going to stop a big asteroid from hitting the Earth.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, exciting. I watched it. I loved it.
And Ben Affleck was in it too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so number 3, Saving Private Ryan,
a movie I've never seen.
I think I've only seen clips and things of it. Very legendary. It had Tom Hanks and Matt Damon. Brought in 190 million. Now, bringing us back to reality, because we love the underdog. Little Voice, again, it was an independent release, and it came out at the end of the year. So really, I guess they consider it to be part of the next year's figures. But somewhere around the middle of the box office, the one that might have done better than Little Voice was a film called The Winslow Boy. This movie brought in 3.9 million, and it was about an English naval cadet who's expelled over petty theft in the early 19th century. So, like 1910-ish or so. And then just below the middle of the box office that year was a film called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Now, the only thing special I could dig up about this movie was that it was directed by now ex-husband of Madonna, Guy Ritchie. And the story behind Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is a guy is given a week to pay back a handsome pool debt to a mobster. So,
all right, if you say so. I don't remember nothing about that one.
It's the likes of an HBO series, really.
Yeah. Well, DG, let's talk about the director of this movie, Little Voice. And it's Mark Herman. And I got to tell you, I loved the way this movie was told. A big part of Mark Herman as director. I love the way the camera moved in this movie. Mark Herman, director. He is an English film director and screenwriter. He was born in Bridlington, East Riding of Yorkshire, England, in 1954. Initially, Mark Herman was interested interestingly enough, in a career in animation. But he eventually kind of decided on a career change and moved over to writing and directing. His first big thing really was that he wrote some lyrics for the successful 1980s band, The Christians, on their first album, The Christians, as it was titled, alongside fellow East Riding of Yorkshire songwriter Henry Priestman. That was kind of his first big thing. Now, let's talk about his first movie, which was Blame It on Bellboy in 1992. Do you know this?
It has Bronson Pinchot in it, Toppy.
Really?
Balky from Perfect Strangers to anyone else.
Oh, God. That was in 1992. It was a comedy of mistaken identities, and it starred Dudley Moore. Herman wrote and directed the critically acclaimed Brastoff in 1996, and this was a movie that followed members of a colliery brass band still struggling to survive decades after a miners' strike. And here we go, in 1998, Little Voice. And Herman adapted this from a play by Jim Cartwright. It was called The Rise and Fall of Little Voice. And Our Lady, Jane Harricks, in the movie, reprises her role from the stage of a harried young woman whose only escape lies in the memory of her father and in imitating the singers he admired. That's kind of the plot right there of this movie. In 2000, Herman did Purely Belter, which was adapted by Herman from a novel by Jonathan Tulloch that was called The Season Ticket. That's the story of two teenage boys trying to get together enough money for a couple of Newcastle United FC season tickets. In 2003, he directed Hope Springs. That's an adaptation of something called New Cardiff. I don't know if that was from stage or a novel. But to this day, our director, Mark Herman, is most known for The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. That was done in 2006. It was based on the novel of the same name by John Boyne, and it was adapted by Herman for the screen, and it starred David Thewlis and Vera Farmiga. And I gotta say, I really like Vera Farmiga. And by the way, not coincidental to nothing, her parents are Ukrainians. DJ, can we get the cheer of your sound effects and play that for Verma Farmiga and her Ukrainian parents?
You know, it's interesting that this film comes up, topic is every once in a while.
I wanted the cheer. I wanted the cheer sound effect.
I got it for you.
Oh, I missed it. Anyways, thank you. I didn't hear it. Go ahead.
Oh, well, it's interesting that The Boy in Striped Pajamas comes up, because that is actually on a list of films that I've been meaning to watch, but I haven't caught just yet. And of course, the striped pajamas in the title is a reference to the clothing that people were forced to wear in the concentration camps during the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So, Toppy, we are at about the halfway mark in our show, and I actually missed the boat. So we're going to pretend that we're a few minutes earlier, and we have a clip from tonight's film. Now, unfortunately, no, I'm not able to locate an actual trailer for this film. So most places you look for a trailer, you end up with a preview of Little Voice. And the moment I've chosen is in LV's bedroom. So the main character, the young girl, and she's in her room, and Michael Caine's character Ray has come to visit her.
Which are your dad's favourites?
I'm 3 there.
Oh, good. You know what? Well, oh no.
What?
No, well, I was just thinking we could have included them in the, the act. We're not doing it now. I bet your dad would have liked that, huh? Eh? A tribute to his life's loves. One love is songs, sung by his only other love, his daughter. Oh, that would have really been something, eh? Yeah, shame. Because the man in his music, they don't get much respect, do they? No.
Ray. Nothing.
Whoops, there she goes again. The bluebird under the moon and over the stars.
I'll do it.
Do what? Oh, that, okay.
Just once.
Yeah, whatever. I'm pleased. I'll just pop down and get me cigarillos. Won't be a tick.
Righty. So that was a teaser of one of the most important moments in the film when the tides turn. Now we are at about the halfway mark. So we're going to step on over here to our refreshment stand where our gal Gertie is serving things up tonight. And in honor of our folks across the pond, I'm going to ask for a cup of tea.
A cup of tea, okay. You want it laced with anything?
Shh.
All right, I'll give you a surprise. Never mind.
Just has to look like tea.
Okay.
So we're going to be listening to an interview with Mr. Michael Caine from Little Voice. And this is with the Dallas Morning News. And we're talking about his character of Ray Say, the talent agent.
Yeah.
Anyway, Michael, you once referred to Jack Carter, the gangster you played in the movie Get Carter, so the ghost of Michael Caine. This is how you might have turned out with a few wrong decisions coming from the same neighborhood. I'm wondering if you thought of Ray as perhaps another ghost. Perhaps this is how you might have wound up if you hadn't made it.
No, Ray, I love women. I really adore women. Ray doesn't like women. Ray uses women. I have a natural, shall we say, affection for ladies, and I grew up in a family which is, if you think in terms of all the children from the war, we grew up in single parent families. The father was away, so men like me who are very influenced by their mothers have a tremendous respect for women. Because of the mother figure and everything. I think Ray's mother, the backstory on him, hated him, and he hated her back. And he's getting back at women, and they owe him a living, and he just uses women. Now, in that picture, he has one of the most insulting speeches to a woman I've ever heard on screen. But it's a comment on him rather than on the woman, which is the cleverness of the writing. You just realize what a failure he is. But he's also very funny. I did it for the comedy because even when I do a drama, I mean, I'm sure I will never play Hamlet or King Lear, but I'm sure at the moment I started reading the script, I'd be looking for the laughs. And because basically Ray is so evil and such a swine, he's funny. He's funny.
But you never found yourself thinking, well, gee, now, if Zulu hadn't come along, if Chris Fallon, Alfie hadn't come along, if I would have just been slogging away as an actor, I might have turned into something like this.
No, I'd have been a writer. I'd have been a writer, which is what I do now. I'm writing. I wrote an autobiography, and I'm writing a book, a novel, just for my own amusement. I don't ever deal with it. But no, I know who the Races are of this world. I've seen them. I met them when I first came into this business. A lot of them, obviously. Mm-hmm. No, I could never. There isn't one thing in Race's character that is in mine. I don't think we share an iota of thought or anything. Everything he did. The only thing that's in his character that is in mine is he's funny. He is funny. And I like to be funny. I was going to be funny this morning, but I decided not to.
That's interesting. That's interesting, DJ, because at first I liked his character, and then it takes a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And he is evil. So very interesting. Very interesting.
If I were to analyze it a bit more, I would think that basically he agreed to play a type that maybe he was all too familiar with, like maybe someone he went to school with.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. So a number of people came together behind the talent that does the film Little Voice, and we'll start off by talking about the Grande Dame, the lady who was the not so supportive mother. Character is called Mari, and of course the film starts off with her explaining that her last name is Hoff, and
yes.
She says, "Can you imagine me and my husband going for our marriage license saying Mr. and Mrs. Frank off?"
Yeah.
H
F off.
F off. Yes, F off.
By the way, before you talk about the actress Brenda Blithen, the only clue in the movie of the time and place this is happening is that the apartment these characters exist in is up above a storefront of Hoff Records.
Mm-hmm.
But we know nothing else about it. But apparently that's how this mother is like making a living. But there's never a scene in the store. What am I crazy, or like that's where their apartment was, right above a record store the name of Hoff?
Yes. So I having seen this a few times, most recently I noticed in one of the scenes, of course there's a scene in which there's a fire, which we can get to in a bit, but part of the building is revealed that you don't always see, and there's I think you call it like a nameplate or something, and you could see a layer of paint, and it says Hoff Records on one part, but the layer below says Hoff and Son. So it suggests that this is a generational home, that it was inherited possibly by the grandfather. So you're correct. It really doesn't tell us what time it's set in. You could possibly decide for yourself, but
but also, is this mother running the Hoff record store? We never know what she's really doing for a living.
I would think that she's on some form of assistance. I mean, she is, well, actually she's a widow, but there is one scene where she's briefly at like a fresh market with her neighbor.
That's right. She's spraying with a hose a fish market. Like she's spraying away the fish parts and the smell and stuff. Yeah, that's right.
It is very brief, so unless you've watched it a couple of times, you may not catch it. So Brenda Blythen was the lady who played the mother in this film, Mari. She began acting on television in the 80s. Now, her first film role was in a very iconic film with Angelica Houston based upon a Roald Dahl story. It was
Ah,
called The Witches. In more recent years, it's been remade with Anne Hathaway on HBO. But that was in 1990, her first film. And this was by the director of the 76 film with David Bowie, The Man Who Fell to Earth. So if you enjoyed that, you might like The Witches if you haven't already seen it. Little Voice was Blythen's ninth film, so she's not, the junior officer here.
yeah.
And, she appeared in 5 roles in different films that same year. Busy
Wow.
lady. Her film prior to Little Voice was called Night Train. This was in 98, of course, with Mr. John Hurt, which intrigues me. I adore that man. I'm going to go see this. It's about an ex-con man who's escaping his past on the Orient Express.
Yeah, I like John Hurt too. I just like the way I just like his acting.
Blythen would star in 5 films over the next 5 years, most notably including Saving Grace, a film from 2000 with TV's Craig Ferguson, a Scottish actor who's hosted Late Night before. And it's about a reluctant widow who turns to marijuana growing to dig herself out of debt.
Okay.
In 2001, Brenda Blythen was in On the Nose, and this is a film with Dan Aykroyd. It's
Huh.
about a gambler, gambling again, who finds luck in a shrunken head. And in 2002, she was in a film with Christina Ricci, associated with Angelica Houston there in Addams Family. And this film was called Pumpkin. It was about a sorority girl who falls for a mentally challenged man. Now, in 2011, Blythen would be cast in her most iconic role to date, and it was in as the lead in a series called Vera, and the character, of course, is all Vera. It's about a British it's a British TV series about a countryside murder detective. So think Murder, She Wrote, but English countryside.
Yeah, and I bet it was a lot better than Murder, She Wrote.
To date, Brenda Blythen has 87 acting credits.
Whoa. All right, let's talk about Jane Horrocks. Now, this actress was apparently, if I understand, she's the only actress that was brought in from the play, the musical version of this that was on stage. And she plays LV as we know her until we actually find out her name in one of the last moments of the movie.
A breakthrough.
Yeah. And but we know her first as just simply the letter L, the letter V, LV. And Jane Horrocks began acting on television in the mid to late 80s. That's how she started. She'd only been in 2 TV shows before Phil's first supporting role in the film The Dressmaker. I remember that, 1988. British film about a World War II story that involved a 17-year-old niece who was having a delusional affair with an American soldier. Little Voice, our movie tonight, was her 10th film. She would later lend her voice to 4 animated films over the next 5 years, including Fairies in 99, Chicken Run, I remember that, in 2000. For a decade, Horrocks had appearances in commercials for national UK retailer Tesco. Most recently, she starred in Bloods, a series about 2 paramedics, one a loner and the other an outgoing divorcee. To date, Horrocks has had 126 acting credits.
Oh, busy lady.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we work our way up the ladder there, and one of the most notable members of the cast is Mr. Michael Caine. Now, it should be noted that prior to his appearance in Little Voice, Michael Caine was experiencing somewhat of a hiatus in his career. He had actually informally retired and was talked into taking this role when the original actor was cast in one of the Jurassic Park films. So he was the next choice by the director.
Ah,
So Michael Caine, he was born in the UK as well as our other two actors, and he played the somewhat lovable and then sort of rascal,
yeah,
to say the least,
boy.
Ray Say. And he began acting on television in the mid to late 50s. Now, Little Voice was actually quite farther down in his career. It was his 74th film.
Yeah.
His film before was something called Shadow Run in 98, which was about a hijack of a security van in broad daylight. It was called Shadow Run because he didn't have any help and he was told to stay off the radio.
Right.
His film after Little Voice was called It All Came True, also in 98. And I'm intrigued because this starred Mr. James Spader and Maggie Smith, Dame
Huh.
Maggie Smith. A man buys a house on Manhattan, uninhabited for decades, except the ghosts of the previous owner and his wife.
Huh.
They meddle in his love life, and it all came true.
Yeah, I do not know that movie at all.
And despite the fact that James Spader is in it, Maggie Smith makes me want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, she makes me want to see anything she's in.
Now, in 02, Caine was introduced to a whole new generation of film goers. Your mom and dad might have seen his films. Maybe you hadn't, but he was cast in a Mike Myers film, Mr. Saturday Night Live. He was in Austin Powers' Goldmember.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah.
And
That probably did introduce him to a lot of new people.
And he was the lead character's father, Nigel, who of course was a spy himself and had disappeared many years before.
Oh,
Now,
but this next thing, he played the butler of Batman. That's probably another place where people really, can picture him.
Exactly. So he disappeared for a while from the public, and then another new generation learned about him when they saw the new Batman films with Christian Bale, and he played the lovable butler Alfred. And that was first in 2005 in Batman Begins. Of course, there is at least another Batman movie with him in it. And to date, Michael Caine remains active in film and has 176 credits to his name at the ripe age of 89.
And by the way, I just want to say he appeared in Jaws 4, Jaws the Revenge. And what can we say about Michael Caine except he is a great actor. And he's one of those people like Spencer Tracy. When he acts, it doesn't seem like he's acting. It seems like he inhabits every role and like he's not even trying. And I don't know what the deal is, but he's so good in everything he does.
I would say to anybody who isn't following Michael Caine, if you haven't specifically sought out a film because he was in it, okay, start off by watching Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Now, the only reason I say that is not simply because Michael Caine is in it, but because his career can only get better from that point.
I don't know why. Why did he appear in Beyond the Poseidon Adventure? Why did he appear in Jaws the Revenge? I don't know. He didn't need to.
Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, I guess, was to meet Sally Fields.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know, DJ. I don't know.
As somebody who might have been a few classes behind you in school and life here, I didn't, of course, stumble upon Mr. Michael Caine and his career until a few years later. But the very first film that I saw, which I'm realizing now had him, was a little gem of an 80s film where he plays a character not unlike Mr. Ray Say. This was a film with Steve Martin called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Okay, I know of this. Yes.
Oh, so Toppy, we have discussed the cast and We do have a few minutes, so we could talk about the story.
Yeah, let's double down on this movie, DJ. When I watched this, I thought I knew where this movie was going. And boy, did it not go where I thought it was going. Okay, I thought when this girl was singing, she was going to really launch into stardom, and we were going to see her again and again in one production after another that was better and better, and that she would like break through, and none of that happened. And it went down a dark path that I did not anticipate, DJ. Boy, did I not anticipate. Whoo!
It definitely takes you on a journey.
Oh my God. And how? Oh my God. Oh, boy, I can't think of a single movie we've talked about here on Matinee Minutia that has affected me more deeply than this movie. I mean, it really had an impact. I'm still a little bit stunned by it, and I really mean that. I really mean it.
You know, I've seen this film several times, and the copy I have, this will tell you, you know, my journey in life here, is one that I bought from a Blockbuster that was going out of business.
Yeah. Well, we did that. We did that back in the day.
But I actually got to see Little Voice during its theater release. It may have been at one of the, you know, quote unquote last run theaters, a matinee as our namesake. And I remember it was at a theater in Dallas, Texas, where I was living at the time. It was a charming little place that was basically dinner in a movie. And you know, my ex was not very much into women empowerment stories, so aka what we would call a chick flick back then. So my options were either to see Shakespeare in Love, which had Gwyneth Paltrow, or Little Voice. And of course, with Michael Caine on the marquee, there was a chance that somebody who wasn't necessarily a feminist was going to see the movie. So we took in Little Voice, and I will say that you know, I identify with the Little Voice character in many regards, in that being the youngest child, there was a time where I felt like it took a lot of effort to get noticed. So I understand the part of her being soft spoken. And it wasn't until I actually had finished school and left the state, actually, after 2 years of college, I bought a one-way ticket to Dallas, Texas, with my pre-approved MasterCard that I got in the mail.
Yeah.
Because back then, and probably even still now, they hand out things to college students who don't really have much of an income, thinking we're gonna get them with that interest.
Oh.
Not to trigger anyone, but so yes, I definitely identify with LV, because it took some doing for me to come out of my shell, and it was working
Yeah.
at a hotel company where I will say, out in the haystack, there wasn't a whole lot of diversity. I met a lot of people from different you know, backgrounds, and people who were even born overseas when I got that first big boy job in the big city. But yes, much like Little Voice, I understand she had a great love of her father's music. That was the time that was special to her, because she got to be with her dad. And as she said in the film, there was a moment where she was breaking down and she was starting to find her voice and speak up to her mother. She said, you know, my father, when he was alone and was with his records, he sparkled, not like you, but with fine lights. So she
Yeah.
saw her dad as being somebody who was classy and educated and intellectual, and he
Yeah.
introduced her to the world of his music, which made an impact on her because, as we assume from the events in the film, she lost her father, and it's
At an
many
early age.
yes, and many years later, that impact that this music was important to him carried on with her.
Well, I mean, almost. Okay, so I thought, okay, possibly we're dealing with someone on the autism spectrum
Mm-hmm.
because she was so unable to communicate and she was so fixated on the music she had on her LPs.
Mm-hmm.
And we would see her collecting them in various stacks that meant something to her. And we would see her like playing them, but experiencing them, listening like her life depended on it. And that's how she and we it became clear that she was escaping a lot of what she found unbearable in her family life with her mother, who was so crude. I mean, her mother was so crude, and she escaped by listening to this music. And I have to wonder, it's not explained. We don't know, but it feels like she was on some sort of spectrum of autism.
And I think it's interesting to note that the character who is played by up and coming Ewan McGregor, who's not someone we discussed, but this is one of his early film roles. His character of Billy was introduced for the film. In fact, that character did not exist in the play, and I think it does bring up a very important discussion, as you were suggesting. Little voice being soft-spoken and introverted could have been on the spectrum, and the young man who takes an interest in her was somebody who simply came to install the telephone, a young man whose name was Billy, and his hobby was raising pigeons. So they
Yes.
connected, and those were some of the brightest moments in the film because you realized they had that in common. They were both awkward. And
Yes.
when you got to meet Ewan McGregor's character, he was sitting in the stairway of the house of Mari, the mother, and she's doing her best to sell her goods to the guy who's clearly the boss on the job. And here the young guy sitting on the stairs doing his best to avoid eye contact, and his boss is like, "Say hello, Billy," and
Yeah.
he finally speaks up. So in that sense, they introduce a character that can relate with LV and
Yes.
Billy.
And also there's a verbal and an image involved with this guy's interest in pigeons and freeing them and being involved, like he cares. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows about pigeons, but there are people that keep pigeons and become very attached to them with their skills in flying out and then coming back. And it's kind of a sport, especially in the UK. And that's where this kid is. I mean, he's very awkward, just like LV. But he's like awkward in like a whole nother way. But somehow in this movie, they come together. And it's a little bit unexpected, but in the most tragic part of the movie, the pigeon guy comes through and rescues LV.
Mhm.
Um, and if there's anything you can say about this, well, I'm just going to say, because it felt that way to me, DJ, it felt like a horrible, dark ending.
A manic episode.
It was like, oh my God. And if there's anything to be redeemed at the end, is that we do feel like this pigeon guy and LV, they're going to become something together, something positive.
You know, and turning around to the cast with the mother. Now, I'm not saying that I feel bad for her.
Well,
We don't know her story, but she
yeah.
doesn't come off as Mother of the Year.
No, that is hysterical. DJ, that's hysterical. Okay.
Because she is. I don't know what the feminine version of the term is, but she's the female version of a womanizer. She's a social butterfly in a sense.
Well, yes. Okay.
I mean, the W word could be used, but that's what they call slut shaming. But anyways, there is a series of events where unfortunately a fire happens, and I will have you know that is a pivotal moment because up until that point, the mother is very self-absorbed, and she is run across the street to her neighbor and crying in the arms of her neighbor. Then the fire occurs. And that's the only moment that she truly shows motherly instincts, because she looks out the door and suddenly she says, "My baby."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Awesome.
somebody who was a little bit more affectionate would have reacted long before then. But this is a tale of tragedy, and has a bittersweet end. But like they say, a phoenix from the flames.
Yeah, that's it. And you do not expect, I didn't expect that this is where this movie was going to take us. And I was like, holy God.
I will say though that moment is when our lead actress Jane Horrocks has a moment to shine, because her character has a manic episode, and she goes through a range of not only emotions but of characters. So it's almost like she's got multiple personality disorder, because she is going through her thoughts on the situation and expressing them through those artists that she has listened to for all these ages.
Yeah. I just want to say one other thing about another character in the movie.
Mhm.
And I don't even know the name of the actress that did this role, except that she was the friend of the mother.
Mhm.
This rather obese woman who was not at all attractive, very homely, and often dressed inappropriately. And she was like best buddies to this mother.
Mhm.
But as the movie goes along, if there is anyone that seems to genuinely care about this girl, the daughter, uh, LV, it's this woman. And I don't know what it means exactly, but this character never speaks in the movie, just like LV.
But the character that you're referring to, the neighbor lady, her name is Sadie. And I
Yeah.
just looked her up. She is an actress that I've seen a few times on and off, always playing a supporting character. Her name is Annette Badland, and some of the things that she's been in more recent years, she was on. Let me just see real quick here. She's been on some shows that folks in the UK would know. EastEnders. She had guest appearances on. She's also on a Showtime series for a few episodes. Show called Outlander, which is about a wartime nurse that gets transported to the past. It's a romance story, but anyway, she's also in Outlander, and she's been on Doctor Who more recently. But yeah, Annette Badland.
Well, I just thought that you see it. It's not overly stated. It's actually quite subtle. But scene after scene, if you're looking, if you notice the character, the only character giving empathy and caring and touching and soothing LV is this woman who doesn't speak.
I think that she serves a very important role in the sense that you're given the perception that she's somebody who's perhaps special needs because
Yeah, yeah.
she doesn't talk very much.
But also just in exactly in the way that LV seems to be, like, we don't know. Is she autistic? I don't know.
But I think the fact that the neighbor lady is special needs also illustrates that while she may be, having a limited use of her faculties, she's more of a human being than the girl's own mother. Because she shows empathy, whereas the mother is just self-absorbed.
Totally. She seems to be the only person that has empathy. It's not Michael Caine, it's not her mother. Boy, I got to tell you, DJ, this movie floored me.
Yeah.
I am so glad I saw this. I didn't expect it at all. Wow. Man, it really bowled me over.
I'm after this, probably this weekend, I'm gonna go and watch Vera, the show with Brenda Blythe, because that is on Prime Video. I didn't recognize her from the art for the show because it's just a country woman wearing a hat. You don't really see much of her face. But I've loved Absolutely Fabulous for ages. Jane Horrocks in that is not a lead character, so you only see her sparingly, but her scenes are brilliant because she plays a ditzy secretary type, but she is smarter than the lead characters at times because they're dysfunctional. So Toppy, we are close to the end of our
I guess we got to close this out, but I could talk a million more hours about this movie. I really could.
I'm glad. I will quickly say that another person that deserves honorable mention is actor Jim Broadbent, who played the comedy club owner, Mr.
Yeah. You know what I thought is, like, I just thought, if America ever redoes this, as it often happens, because the only real, like, super great projects are started in Britain, and then America, adapts it. But Bill Murray, if America did this, Bill Murray needs to do that role.
So I don't know a lot of films that Jim Broadbent has been in, but of things that I have seen him in, they have been my favorites. He has had supporting roles in some of the Harry Potter films.
Okay.
And that's one of those moments, Toppy, where I see them, and whereas somebody in the UK would be like, "Oh, that's Jim Broadbent," I'd be like, "It's Mr. Boo!"
Yeah, Mr. Boo. Yeah. Oh, what a great character! What a great role.
So we are out here in the lobby, and we're just wrapping things up as the cleaners are coming through. They call them the char lady when they got their hair up in the the hanky, and they've got the mop bucket, kind of like Carol Burnett on her show.
Yeah, a
Anyway,
little bit.
so this is what we call our snack tray, and it's things you might like if you enjoy Little Voice. Now, I'm going to recommend a film that I have not yet seen. However, it has come on recommendation of one of our fellow Univaz podcast hosts, Mr. Shayeti Paul has spoken about this film before. It's a 2001 French language film. Don't let that turn you away, folks, because there are subtitles available. And I adore foreign films just simply because they often provide a different perspective. Now, this film that you might like if you enjoyed Little Voice is called Amelie, spelled Amelie.
Okay.
And it's about an introverted girl. Now, the story is an innocent and naive girl in Paris with her own sense of justice decides to help those around her and along the way discovers love. And it's
Huh.
2001 Amelie. You might actually be able to find it online, Toppy.
Well, how interesting that you chose a French movie, and I chose an American movie that has, French characters in it that are Americanized. But I chose Lily,
Hmm.
1953 American film by MGM, stars Leslie Caron as a touchingly naive French girl. Now, that's the connection for me, because LV seemed to me to be, well, touchingly naive. And in this case, Leslie Caron is a French girl whose emotional relationship with the carnival puppeteer is conducted through the medium of 4 puppets. In other words, kind of like LV did these songs, and she was like really kind of in a fantasy land. Leslie Caron in this movie talks to these puppets, seemingly not being aware that there's a real man, the puppeteer behind the curtain, who is actually talking to her. So that's my connection. And Lily is a great movie, but I do feel the connection. I feel the connection between Lily and this movie.
Oh, okay. All righty. So that was 1953 Lily with Leslie Caron. Now,
Yeah.
okay. All right, Toppy. So it was a quiet evening in the old theater here tonight, but we did have some folks that dropped by. Did you want to let us know what some of those were?
Yeah, I'd love to. Folks, it's our chat room. Now, do you guys know that we do this live? We do. We stream this live, and we have a place where people can come together and join us in a chat room and react and talk to us and talk to each other. It's a fun time. You should try it sometime. And tonight in our chat room, we had the ever mysterious Cronehaven. We had our good friend Marn Gertz, and we're so happy they joined us. So,
and don't forget V Money dropped.
Oh, V Money was here. That's right.
And my old friend from little old Oslo.
Yeah. So, anyways, folks, you should join us when we do this live every first and third Friday of the month.
Yeah, just drop on by at matineminutia.com. You can click that tower, just like King Kong. You can climb the tower and listen to our audio. Or you can click on the little blue mask symbol, the controller. It's called Discord. It's how the cool kids these days.
That's right.
Chat room.
Oh yeah.
And
that's very cool.
If you want to see us all decked out, you can always go over there to YouTube. There's the link there too, and you can see all of our past shows. So it's like watching all your old favorites.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, it is. It is. Now, DJ, we have a background. It's a magician. Many magic shows came through the theater here. Somebody left a magic gumball machine. Will you crank that friggin' magic gumball machine?
Okay, hand me those coins, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I got them. Here you go.
Okay, we're gonna see what's coming up next. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and open up this capsule.
Yeah, open it up.
All right, so this one is actually a listener request.
Oh my God. Can you identify the listener?
Yes, Mr. Tommy of the Great White North has dropped us a line.
No kidding.
Yeah, so next time on Matinee Minutia, which will be Friday, May 6th. So we're going to be turning that page of the calendar.
Uh-oh.
And it's a mid to late 70s television sitcom. Is soap opera-ish
Soap opera-ish.
of two antics of two families.
Huh.
The Campbells and the Tates.
Oh no.
Starring Katherine Hellman before she was on Who Was the Boss.
Oh no.
And Richard Mulligan before he was on that spinoff of Golden
Oh
Girls
no.
called Empty Nest.
Are you talking? Is this soap? Is this soap?
And we were just talking about him at the Academy Awards, Mr. Billy Crystal in an early role. Next time, we're talking about soap.
Soap. Oh, Jesus. It had to happen sometime. It had to happen sometime on the show.
And, you know, because Quietly Kept, a few of us are going through some dark times. And,
oh, no.
We just need something to laugh about.
No, and yeah, good idea. This is a good plan.
And you know what? Unbeknownst to me, I did not realize that Katherine Hellman's character was related to the character of the governor on Benson in the 80s. They were cousins.
Well, I mean, I always thought of Benson as a spinoff of Soap.
It is.
Yeah.
So Katherine Hellman actually made a few guest appearances on the early seasons of Benson, which of course also, for those of you who have been following the notes, we talked about MASH earlier in the year, and that of course starred Rene Auberjonois, and he was
how did you say that name again? Say that name again.
Rene Auberjonois.
Okay.
And of course, also because Renee later joined the Star Trek family on Deep Space Nine, Mr. Ethan Phillips got his start on Benson, and he later went to be on Voyager as Neelix. But that's not what we're talking about. Next time we're talking about soap.
Soap. Jesus. Boy, soap was a long time ago. Yeah, this will be interesting.
It had some important firsts.
Yeah, because you know what? I never watched soap. So this will be a first time for me.
Yes. All right, Toppy. Well, in the old days of radio, would you do us the honors of saying good night, Gracie?
Yeah. Good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia.
Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to univazpods.net, click the tower for streaming audio. Enter Discord for our chat room.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Find us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Find our group on Facebook.
Or visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Have an idea for a show? Or why not let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
This has been an Ollybug production.
I have a voice.
I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice.
We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
univazpods.net. And for your listening enjoyment, folks, I'm going to go ahead and play one of the artists that was discussed in tonight's film.
Oh, yeah, please do.
And we'll just have a snippet of her because, you know, copyrights and whatnot. We're going to listen to the Welsh jazz artist, Shirley Bassey. And you can see us in all of our sultry chair dancing over on YouTube. I don't know how much this will get out there. Let's fall in love.
Yeah. And I
Featuring,
love it.
featuring Nelson Riddle, apparently, according to the Amazons.
I love it.
You know, we've got to find a film from the 40s or 50s, maybe something with Frank Sinatra sometime.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, that was the music of our parents' generation, I think.
All right. Yeah.
And I'll just let this play for a moment longer, then I'll stop at the halfway mark.
Well,
So just imagine, if you will, Gertie in her nightclub
hey,
here.
you better believe it, DJ. I'm telling you, I was there. I lived it. So you better believe it.
And that's some of the music that was sampled in Little Voice. They covered music from Cabaret, of course, made famous by Liza Minnelli. Liza with a Z, not Lisa with an S.
Whatever.
Let's fall in love.
I was bigger than her.
Well,
If I wanted to be honest, I was bigger than her.
I have heard
Anyways.
stories about the bustier.
Okay.